Alright guys, and welcome to another video. So, as most of you know, Black Temple and Mount Hydril randomly appeared on the PTR a few days ago, but it only lasted a few days before it was randomly taken down. So obviously not many people got to actually experience it. Luckily I did, for 11 hours straight. We were actually pumping with a pug until about 10 o'clock in the morning the next day. So I just wanted to talk about my experience and why I think the PTR was taken down, and then answer some big questions like, which bosses are the hardest and how much shadow resistance do we think we need for Mother Sharaz. Now guys, I just want to quickly apologise again for the lack of uploads and fairly short videos. As you know, I did catch COVID and, it's been quite tough to recover from that. But luckily I am all recovered. But the problem is now, my girlfriend has broken up with me, so I've got to deal with that now. She didn't break up with me because I had COVID, it's nothing like that. Long story short is, I've been working way too much on this channel. I'm really letting the stress get to me. And unfortunately I took all that stress over the years on her, and it slowly tore apart the relationship. I won't go on about it too much. We talked about it a lot on yesterday's stream. I was very much an open book about it, and the support from you guys has just been absolutely overwhelming, and it's made me feel a lot better, so I really do appreciate it. But yeah guys, just please understand that I can't work like an absolute trooper on making videos right now. So the main thing people are concerned about, obviously, is the difficulty. Now, we attempted the raid with a bit of a streamer pug. We began with a really good setup, really good players, but as time went on, the composition got worse and worse. People had to leave, and the players who stayed were getting more and more tired. But we did have a big brain TBC Oracle leading the raid at TSW, who basically just carried us through the entire thing. So in the beginning, the raid felt fairly easy because we had many people experienced with TBC raiding in the group, and many of those people felt like they were playing the nerfed version of the raid. So we're talking Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch nerfs, where Black Temple, all the bosses get lower health pulls and they do less damage. This has happened on previous PTRs where they release the nerf version, get that tested, and then they re-release a harder version, so that's likely to happen this time round again. But to be fair, we did start to struggle later on bosses like Boyle, Council and Illidan, but again I think this is mainly due to our composition becoming more and more scuffed and obviously tiredness. I definitely think Boyle, Council and Illidan will be the hardest bosses to deal with in this raid. Maybe Terran Golf, but only until people actually get the hang of controlling the ghosts and all their abilities and everything like that. I think once you've got that nailed, then Terran Golf is fairly easy as well. But all the other bosses were really doable in about a couple attempts. But who knows, maybe those bosses will become considerably more difficult in their pre-nerf state. But let me go boss to boss, and what I think about each boss individually. So High Warlord was fairly straightforward, tank and spank, but he still packed a really big punch when he did his AoE, bringing people to about 10% health. I had to actually equip some high stamina gear because my priest would have just been one-shotted. It probably will be an issue for priest, to be honest, because they always seem to have lower health pulls to other classes. And it will be, just an issue for anyone who generally doesn't have a lot of stamina gear. But with bandages and hellstones, you can make that fight much easier. Supremacist was actually fairly easy. You just had to avoid his volcanoes. There's plenty of space in that boss fight because you basically got the whole causeway to Black Temple. Fortunately I did die because I used bad timing of Shadow Word Death. So it's going to be one of those fights where, if you tunnel vision your DPS and don't pay much attention, you will get caught out and killed by those volcanoes. On Shade of a Calm though, we actually totally messed it up when it came to tanking the ads. So most people died, but somehow we still managed to kill the boss by just cheesing it. And it's because obviously, the boss actually just get tanked by an NPC. It seems like no more ads were spawning as well after the first wave. So for Terran Golf, we have some mess ups, but it was only because people were getting used to controlling the ghosts. I think most guild teams they'll struggle with this until everyone has controlled the ghosts at least once and kind of figured it out. But really, it is a fairly easy boss. Now, Boyle was a bit of a bump in the road for us, partly down to RNG, but also down to people, not being ready enough for the mechanics. What Boyle does is he randomly enrages a person who gets buffed and then has to tank the boss. The problem is, if he's enraged by a squishy caster, they are bang in trouble, okay, and they just drop like a noodle. But once we figured that out, and the healers pumped healers into the enraged players, we just got through it. The Reliquary of Souls, if I'm saying that right, it has a tough first phase because everyone is immune to healing, but because there are like these small intermission phases where you can just regenerate all your mana, you know, it's not really that difficult because, yeah, the healers can just get their mana back. So, Mother Sharaz, even in its nerf state, it really did pump a lot of shadow damage on the raid. Most people were over 250 shadow resistance for this boss, which makes me think people will actually need way more for the unnerfed version. Maybe even shadow protection potions, but obviously in TBC, these mess up with, you know, the mana potion cooldown as well, because it doesn't last for 1 hour. Priests will be absolutely essential, well, at least one priest, you know, to provide their shadow resistance buff for this fight. This might be a really big wall for those guilds who haven't prepared any shadow resistance gear yet. You can get shadow resistance gear from Black Temple reputation, but obviously you have to grind that rep up, and you also have to do trash farms for Heart of Darknesses, which is like a little reagent you have to use in order to create the shadow resistance gear. Okay, and some of the guides I've been looking at, guys, are recommending 365 shadow resistance, so basically the resistance cap. So yeah, that one's going to be interesting. Now we have Ildari Council. It's basically a harder version of High King Mulgar. It requires a lot of group coordination to pick up all the 4 little bosses. You need to be on the ball with healing, making sure the tanks, but also the mage tank, stay alive. Your interrupts have to be sharp, and you have to react quickly to avoid the AoE damage that the casters put out onto the raid, because you can get caught out pretty easily. Some of those fights that you can't finish with, you know, too many people messing up and slacking. Everyone really has to be awake and on the ball. And now we have Illidan, probably the coolest fight I've ever experienced so far in Classic WoW. Okay, I just love a boss fight that has, you know, more than 2 phases. It's just more interesting to me. It even felt difficult in its nerf state. Okay, other groups were struggling with Illidan as well, so this will probably be a really challenging fight for most semi-hardcore to casual guilds when it is finally released. The main responsibility really lies with the tanks, okay? You need good tanks for this fight. The element, you know, it's when they start tanking the elemental adds, it's a fairly difficult situation to be in. Also, you have to be really on the ball when you have to do the Warlord tanking when Illidan goes into his demon phase, because this phase is really healer intensive on the Warlock, but also on everyone else if you don't kill the adds fast enough. So this was a 9-minute fight as well in its nerf state, so this is probably going to be a really long fight when it is finally released. You're going to have to stack up on a lot of mana potions. You probably need about 5 per pull. So if your guild group doesn't stack up enough mana potions to, you know, progress on this fight, that is going to be a bit of a wall for you, a bump in the road. But anyway, that's all the bosses. So why do I think that the PTR has been taken down? First of all, I think this is a good sign. Okay, it means Blizzard are doing more focus testing of the raids. It's always a red flag when Blizzard just leave the PTR live and then don't do anything with it. You know, they don't take it down or put it back up again and make changes. I think the PTR will bounce back up very soon, you know, with Black Temple and Hyjal considerably more difficult. Hopefully it will anyway. You know, bigger health pools, more boss damage, maybe even some more restored mechanics, because I did kind of feel like some mechanics were missing when we were doing the raid testing. Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end the video there. My name is MetaGoblin. To my next video, ciao.